You're watching NRATV. And now, We Stand with Dan Bongino.
All right, welcome back to We Stand with Dan Bongino. Hey, listen, you can't move away from your computer, your Apple TV, your Roku, Amazon Fire, whatever, Google Chromecast, whatever you're watching this on. Don't move away for the next half hour, because this is the most important show I've done here. I'm being serious. I know, me, and when I mess around with Grant at his 1 o'clock show, we can be kind of silly sometimes. We don't always want to be so macabre about everything. But this is the most important show I've done here. I mean it. I put a lot of homework into this. I didn't just come on the air and start spouting off about what I'm about to tell you. This is stuff I've been looking at for a very long time. And given the revelations about what happened yesterday with regard to the invasion of Trump's office, Trump's lawyer's office, Michael Cohen, the search warrant that was served there, there's some really important information I have to get across to you. So don't move away from your TV screen for a minute. All right, starting off here first. I'm not the only one who feels like yesterday was a crossing of the Rubicon. We're in a lot of trouble, folks. The President of the United States' personal attorney yesterday had his office raided by federal agents during an investigation into a collusion scandal that's not a scandal because it never happened. Digest for a second what I just told you. And by the way, let me just welcome in our Media Matters friends who watch the show. Thank you so much. I just request when you retweet content, will you just include the damn website? What's wrong with you guys? If you're going to give us free promotion, put the website, have some courtesy, show some respect. What's wrong with you guys? But I'm not the only one who has a problem with what's going on. Look at this headline from Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz, a noted liberal icon. Today's a very dangerous day for lawyer-client privilege. Alan Dershowitz, Harvard Law School professor, but not a conservative by any stretch. Matter of fact, a very liberal man, but I think an honest guy. That's Dershowitz responding to how dangerous what I think happened yesterday is. Now, let me be clear on something. Before I start the show here, I don't know what they found or didn't find. I'm just telling you this. This is not an investigation into collusion. This is not an investigation into a specific pre-existing predicate crime. This is an investigation into the president, Donald Trump. That's not what we do in a constitutional republic, folks. Liberals are having a really tough time understanding this based on the feedback, the deranged feedback, to my commentary that I've given on cable news outlets and on this show yesterday. I'm simply trying to suggest to you that in a constitutional republic, what we do here is we investigate crimes. People walk into a police department, an FBI field office, a Secret Service field office where I worked, and they say, listen, I've been defrauded. They may know the person, they may not. I've lost money, my credit card was stolen, my child was kidnapped, God forbid, my house was broken into, God forbid. Can you come and investigate? You don't walk into a police station or an FBI office and say, I need you to investigate Donald Trump. Why? Well, because we're going to find something eventually. Just investigate him because I don't like him. I'm suggesting to you that's what's happening right now. This is a smokescreen. What's going on is a smokescreen. This Muller investigation is being run by the only guy they could have put in charge to run interference to distract you from the truth, and that was that Donald Trump's team was spied on. This is indisputable. And there were serious breaches of morality, potential criminal activity during the last administration, email servers, foreign influence, that stuff is all being covered up by, in fact, an investigation into a collusion scandal that never happened by the one guy they knew they could count on to do it, and that's Bob Mueller. Play that little mashup, by the way, of headlines, because we're going to go into all this stuff. You see all these headlines? It looks right now like a strange little puzzle. Wow, where's Dan going with this? I'm going to make all this stuff make sense. This is going to be a 28-minute and 30-second Venn diagram of why this is a big scam. Let's start with story number one. What exactly is Bob Mueller investigating? Why did they need to serve a search warrant on an attorney's office for Donald Trump? And it's a personal attorney, by the way. Why'd they need to do that? According to a lot of reports, Trump and his team, Michael Cohen, his lawyer, were cooperating. Put up that headline from the Daily Wire. Let's see exactly what they're looking into here. Muller investigating $150,000. Trump, look at that. Who gave $150,000 donation to Trump from a man who gave Clinton millions. Wait, are you reading that right? Let me get this straight. So yesterday, they raided the office of Trump's attorney over $150,000 donation to Trump from a man who gave the Clintons millions? Huh. Does that make sense to you? Now remember, during Clinton's investigation of her email server, by the way, her not-so-personal attorney, Cheryl Mills, who was actually acting as a staffer, not her attorney, and who was a potential co-conspirator in her email scandal because she had received emails over Hillary's private server, Cheryl Mills. She happened to be an attorney. She was not acting as Hillary Clinton's attorney. They allowed her, the investigating agent, Cheryl Mills, to sit in on the interview with Hillary Clinton and eventually wound up turning the computers that were evidence back over to Hillary Clinton, Cheryl Mills, and their team. Contrast that with what happened yesterday at Donald Trump's actual lawyer's office. No one's disputing it's his personal attorney. Attorney-client privilege was thrown out of the window, as you saw according to that last headline, to investigate a $150,000 donation to a guy who's already given millions to the Clintons. Oh. Let's play that next little piece I have, a screenshot from a piece in Reuters. This is just fascinating. Efforts to sabotage Trump. Backfire. I'm sorry, this is Politico piece. Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump backfire. Why am I putting that piece up? What does this have to do with anything? Well, what's fascinating is during the campaign, Donald Trump's campaign, there was a woman who worked at the DNC by the name of Alexandra Chalupa, who, according to that political piece, may have had contact with Ukrainian officials regarding negative information about the Trump team. Wait. Time out. I thought the whole essence of the Russian collusion case against Trump was that, by the way, that piece was Politico. I'm not making that up. That was Politico. Ken Vogel from Politico. That's not some right-leaning newspaper, blog, website. That's Politico. Left-leaning, if not far left-leaning in some cases. Which their entire report, that was the headline from it, you're free to look it up, was about connections between the DNC, a woman named Alexandra Chalupa, and Ukrainian officials. By the way, the same guy who they're investigating, the Muller headline, they're investigating his donation from a Ukrainian, that's going to come up in a minute too. Hold your horses on that one. There's a big connection there. Do we have that Reuters one? Do you have the Reuters screenshot about the that's important. Oh, here we go. You got that NRATV thing in the corner. You guys get that out of there? It's hard for me to read this stuff. New York Times reported on Monday evening that Mueller's investigating a $150,000 payment made in September of 2015 by a Ukrainian billionaire, Viktor Pinchuk, to Trump's charitable foundation in exchange for a 20-minute video appearance by Trump at a conference in Kiev. So let me get this straight. Let me be crystal clear on this. Mueller is investigating a $150,000 payment for a video appearance by Trump from a guy who's given the Clinton Foundation $25 million? Huh. Is this one of those efforts to say, like, you know, the smoke grenades you pop? You go, hey, look, we're going to get out. We're going to throw up the green smoke, and we're going to disappear behind this cloud of smoke. Folks, this is a scam. This whole investigation is a scam. This whole investigation into Trump is a scam. Now, this gets better. It's interesting. They're going after, remember the names here, follow me. Mueller raids Trump's lawyer's office, which at a minimum opens up a ton of questions, at a minimum, about attorney-client privilege, about a donation from a guy named Viktor Pinchuk, maybe other things. I want to be fair. We don't have the full scope of the information yet, but I'm basing that on reporting by, I just put it up, from Reuters and other people. We're not making this up here on NRATV. I'm not making it up on my show. This is publicly available information. You can see yourself. They're investigating a $150,000 payment from a guy who's paid the Clinton Foundation $25 million. You may say, okay, Dan, so what? Pinchuk gave $25 million to the Clinton Foundation. What's the big deal? Apparently, the Clintons thought it was a big deal. Put up that Washington Examiner headline by Sarah Westwood. This is where it gets interesting. This is from the Washington Examiner. That this Ukrainian businessman, you can read it yourself, that during their final year of diplomatic tenure, despite the spokesman's insistence in 2014, the donor never crossed paths. In other words, they denied meeting with there's Pinchuk in that photo right there. The Clinton staff denied meeting with this guy Pinchuk for a dinner engagement at Clinton's house. Folks, you understand what I'm telling you here. Pinchuk, a Ukrainian. The Ukrainians, according to publicly available reporting, because I know the media matters, folks, like to paint us out as conspiracy theorists. I wonder if Ken Vogel of Politico is a conspiracy theorist too. Or what about the Reuters staff? What about the Washington Examiner? Are we all crazy? Why would Clinton deny meeting with this Victor Pinchuk, who donated millions to the foundation? Her staff, why would they deny it? Why are they giving us all kinds of spitback on this interaction between Alexandra Chalupa, who worked at the DNC, and Ukrainians? What's with the Ukrainians? I thought this was about foreign collusion. Why aren't we investigating that? Because we're busy with the Smokescreen Muller investigation now. Bob Mueller is busy saying, look, shiny red ball. Or as I said once on the air, shiny red squirrel. They are hiding. Mueller's running a smokescreen to keep you all distracted. It's clear as day. Everything they're accusing the Trump team of doing has already been done by the Clintons. Folks, I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole a little further. And for those of you who heard this today on my podcast, this is important. You hear it this way and with these headlines. The visuals matter on this. Mueller's investigating this guy, and it was a referral to Eastern District, but make no mistake, the referral came from the Mueller team, to Southern District, to the Southern District of New York. The referral, the criminal referral, came from the Mueller team into a payment to the Trump team from a guy who paid 10 times as much information to the Clintons, who the Clintons later denied they met with. Now, why would that be? Why would they deny meeting with this guy, Pinchuk? What's up with Pinchuk? Put up that Zero Hedge headline we pulled up earlier. This is really going to scramble your eggs a little bit. The firm, hired by the DNC, has ties to Ukrainian billionaire. Gee, who do you think that Ukrainian billionaire could be? Now, CrowdStrike's the firm, of course. Why is that important? Why is CrowdStrike, a firm hired by the DNC, as we see in this headline, why is it important that they have ties to Ukrainian billionaire? Put up the counterpunch headline. Why is this important and why should it matter to you? Because that is the cybersecurity firm that attributed the hacks of the DNC to the Russians, which may be, in fact, fabricated hacks. This is all going to lead back to our buddy Pinchuk. Hold on a minute here. So just to be crystal clear on what happened, Mueller's investigating Trump based on a mandate to go and unravel Russian collusion in the election. How did the Russian collusion narrative start? It started based on assertions by the DNC and that company CrowdStrike, you just saw in that headline, who said that the DNC was hacked by the Russians. But were they? The FBI never looked at those computers. Now, again, let me be clear. They may worry, the Russians are not our friends. Be crystal clear about that. This is a geopolitical foe, and there's no doubt about it. But the FBI has never looked at those DNC computers. Do you know why? The DNC wouldn't let them. Matter of fact, the DNC wouldn't even allow BuzzFeed to look at their computers, a left-wing outlet, in response to BuzzFeed being sued. What are they hiding? But they did let somebody look at those computers. CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike's an interesting company. Put up that piece from that Counterpunch, the highlighted portion of the Counterpunch piece. A little bit about CrowdStrike and their chief technical officer. So it turns out their chief technical officer and co-founder, Dmitry Alperovitch, is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. Oh, the Atlantic Council, a think tank with openly anti-Russian sentiments that is funded by Ukrainian billionaire Viktor Pinchuk, who also happened to donate at least $10 million to the Clinton Foundation. Come back to me here. Come on back. You putting this thing together now? You seeing what's going on here? Bob Mueller was the only guy that could be hired to make sure, with enough swamp connections, to make sure that you keep your full attention on mystical fairy tale-like X-Files alleged Trump collusion with the Russians that never happened, while he in turn investigates Trump for the exact same thing the Clintons did. Colluding with a foreign government, read the Politico piece yourself, to get negative information about a presidential candidate. Bob Mueller was the guy. Bob Mueller is the guy right now. He must know this. He must have this information. If he does not have this information, it is malfeasance of the highest order, because we found it just by an internet search. Let me walk you through again quickly what I just told you, so I got a lot more to get to here. Bob Mueller served an arrest. Bob Mueller's team, let me be absolutely precise about how this happened. Bob Mueller's team made a referral to the Southern District of New York, the United States Attorney's Office there. The Southern District of New York, through federal agents, served a search warrant on Trump's personal attorney, at a minimum creating attorney-client privilege issues. According to openly available reporting, some of the information they were looking for was related to a six-figure payment for an appearance by Donald Trump by a guy named Viktor Pinchuk. Viktor Pinchuk is a $25 million donor to the Clinton Foundation. Now, when the Clintons were asked about Pinchuk and their team, and there it is, there's our mashup. When they were asked about Pinchuk and a dinner at the Clintons' house with Pinchuk, the same guy they're supposedly investigating for Trump connections, the Clinton team mysteriously came up with a case of retrograde and anterograde amnesia. We don't remember anything that happened or anything that's going to happen. We don't know nothing about Pinchuk. Really? How did that happen? Pinchuk, Viktor Pinchuk, is the same guy who runs the Atlantic Council. On the Atlantic Council sits the co-founder and the chief technical officer of the very same company that started the entire Russian collusion fairy tale by telling you all that the DNC was hacked by the Russians, despite the fact that federal law enforcement agencies have zero evidence that that actually happened. You know how I know that? Because no federal law enforcement agency has ever looked at those DNC computers. Take it to the bank, cash that damn check, hashtag fact, Daddy-o. They may have hacked them, but we don't know because nobody's looked at them but CrowdStrike, a company which has connections to Perovich, the co-founder, who sits on an Atlantic Council run by Viktor Pinchuk, the same guy they raided an office yesterday with the Trump team. You see the smokescreen, folks? You see how this is genius. This is like, you steal your neighbor's hubcaps. Remember hubcaps off the car? And then you do like one of those Beavis and Butthead things where you go, oh, other kids did it. And then they start looking for the other kids. Foreign collusion is sitting right in front of your face. The Russian collusion thing is a myth. It's a fairy tale. It's fabricated. It's completely, entirely made up. Folks, journey with me down the rabbit hole a little more here. Bob Mueller. Speaking of additional, because you may be saying, all right, Dan, but I don't get the Mueller thing. Why Mueller? Like, what's the problem with Mueller here? The problem here is he's clearly running an investigation into the Trump team that is deeply, deeply flawed, if not unbelievably conflicted. Here's another point against Bob Mueller. All of what I just told you is publicly available, by the way. Why isn't this an investigation into Hillary Clinton right now? This isn't whataboutism. This is real. Secondly, the information that was used in the dossier to go after the Trump team, the fake information from Christopher Steele and Fusion GPS, was vetted. People say, oh, the information, no, it was vetted. It wasn't real. It was fake. The information was nonsense. The information was false, but oh, it was vetted. It went up a chain of command in both the FBI and the Department of Justice. One of the final guys to sign off in the Department of Justice on the information used to spy on the Trump team was a guy at the Department of Justice National Security Division by the name of John Carlin. Who was John Carlin? He was Bob Mueller's old chief of staff. You couldn't find anybody else to conduct this investigation but a guy who's got connections to the guy who eventually signed off on the information used to spy on what is now the President of the United States? No one else? He was the only guy? Let me throw another one at you. There was a case a while ago, Tenem, Tenex, Rosatom. It's a case involving uranium transfers in the United States, bribes and kickbacks, and Russian attempts to influence the sale of the uranium market and the purchasing of uranium in the United States. That case was prosecuted using an informant. That informant later alleged that foreign entities were trying to influence the Clintons and others to gain access over United States uranium, nuclear fuel. You know who was the FBI director on that case? Bob Mueller. You know who was the prosecutor on that case? Rod Rosenstein, the United States attorney at the time for Maryland. I was a federal agent when that case went down. I didn't work on the case, but I'm intimately familiar with the details now. You know what happened to that informant who said he had information about the Russians trying to influence our uranium sales over here and trying to influence key lawmakers? He was made to sign a non-disclosure agreement. He wasn't even allowed to speak to Congress. Who was the FBI director? Bob Mueller. Folks, it's time to fire Bob Mueller. Listen, I know these are tough choices. And I understand what I'm saying, carries with it some consequences for me, and that's fine. I was a federal agent for a long time. I know how the process works. This is not an investigation into a crime. This is an investigation into Donald Trump. Please understand the distinction. In a constitutional republic, justice is supposed to be blind. Justice doesn't peek out of an eye and see someone and go, I want that guy. That's not the way Lady Justice is supposed to work. Now, I understand what I'm suggesting to you has consequences, and I'm not suggesting to you, I want to be absolutely crystal clear, I'm not suggesting to you that this is even a good option. You may say, well, why are you suggesting it? Fair enough. Because it's the less bad option. Folks, we're in a lot of trouble. I didn't take this decision lightly. I understand a lot of people out there disagree. There are some people, even on my side of the ideological aisle, some prominent talk radio personalities and politicians who think this would be, in the words of a politician today, he said it would be suicide for Trump to do this. I disagree. Folks, if the Democrats take back the House, which they may very well do, and sadly, the chances look pretty good that they'll do it if you don't get out and vote, they are going to impeach Trump no matter what. Firing Bob Mueller will do nothing to distract from their mission there at all. They are absolutely committed to impeaching Donald Trump. So let me lay out for you the options. They're all bad, folks. We're only talking about what the less bad option is. Don't mistake for a minute some Pollyannish BS that I'm going to give you like, oh, don't worry, fire Bob Mueller, it'll all be good. No, it won't. But it will be less bad than what will happen if they don't. Because Bob Mueller's investigation is going to go on and on and on until the Trump team in the presidency is entirely dismantled. And I've never been more convinced of that than I am today. And by the way, as I opened up the show with Alan Dershowitz, I'm not the only one who feels that way. Dershowitz is a liberal. This is about politics. This is not about criminality. So choice number one, you allow Bob Mueller to continue this investigation. He will take down and dismantle this entire Trump presidency and will, in fact, have overrode the will of the electorate. It's going to happen. You show me the man, I'll show you the crime. It's been said by tyrants throughout human history. They will find the crime on Donald Trump because they are after Donald Trump. That's option number one. You let it go on, you override the will of the American electorate, you entirely dismantle the Trump presidency. It's bad. Here's the less bad option. Fire Bob Mueller and don't ever look back. The media is going to be relentless. It's going to be ruthless. There'll be calls for impeachment tomorrow, but there'll be calls for impeachment tomorrow regardless. You weather the storm knowing you're on the right side of this. Hire someone else. We should be looking into Russian collusion and Russian involvement in our election. You know what? You want it? Let's wrap it up. Get someone else in there, someone more objective, someone who isn't as conflicted as I made the case during this show as Bob Mueller. Bring someone else in there. Wrap this thing up. Bring it to an end for the sake of the country. They're going to call for impeachment after that. If they take the House, I have no doubt they will impeach Donald Trump. They will lose in the Senate. There's a trial in the Senate. When you impeach a president, it works kind of like an indictment or a series of charges. There's a trial in the Senate that will require 67 senators to vote for Trump to be removed from office. It's not going to happen. Do you know why it's not going to happen? Because there is no evidence of Russian collusion. As of this report today on this show, there is zero evidence of criminal Russian collusion to change the results of the election. None. By Trump. Zero. They will lose, and they will lose badly in that Senate trial. Those are our options right now, folks. And pretending that Mueller's just going to stop, all of a sudden is going to be absolved of all these conflicts I laid out, all of a sudden is going to recognize that this is really a case about spying on the Trump team and Hillary Clinton's involvement with foreign governments, that he's going to all of a sudden have this road to Damascus moment and undergo a conversion and see the light. It's all nonsense. We got a fight ahead. And you have two options. Firing Bob Mueller now and don't ever look back is the only viable option. And anyone who tells you otherwise, I believe, is misguided. Oh, the Democrats are setting him up. They want him to fire him. No, they don't. They know this is a deeply conflicted investigation, and they want it to continue for as long as possible. Hey, folks, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I meant everything I said tonight. Please spread the word about the show. Follow me at Bongino and follow us at NRATV. Thanks a lot. See you tomorrow.